Steve Young is the NFL's all-time highest-rated passer, and he always enjoys talking football. But this time, I began our conversation with a question he didn't want to answer. What'd be a bad way for me to start this interview out?
Oh, boy.
Well, right now it'd be if I was going to ask you you're going to retire, right?
Right. Okay. I mean, it's like you can wear someone out after a while.
Talk of retirement started on a Monday night in Arizona.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Steve and Jerry Rice, the top touchdown combination of all time, put the 49ers ahead.
Gotta get him down!
Then, the Cardinals came after Young. Steve was knocked out, and soon everyone had to face the bad news. Steve Young might be out of the game for good. That's a day he dreads, but he's thought a lot about it.
The deceleration that has to take place when you leave the game, from what I can tell from talking to others, is quite intense. Because there's nothing in the world that I've been able to really see that replaces not the adrenaline. People always talk about adrenaline. It's the finality. It's the moment. It's doing something that you know the answer to now. There's a result. There's a result play to play and game to game that you can define. There's something about that immediacy that makes the game very, I mean, it can give you goosebumps just thinking about it.
We've had you mic'd for games. You're pretty tough on the guys on your team. I mean, you
Really?
don't tolerate a lot of mistakes. I mean, you're pretty demanding. Do you realize that?
I probably don't realize that as much as you have the perspective of it.
Oh, NFL Films!
Steve is tough on his teammates, but he's even tougher on our film crew.
NFL Films is stupid, man.
NFL Films has become like AT&T. They're this conglomerate, corporate thing, you know?
Hey, don't forget, man, I remember you when you were the only cameraman doing the grunt work.
When you're around Steve Young, no one is safe.
The microphone's giving me funny weight problem and hurting my ankle. Could be a lawsuit.
He's always complaining about being on television and what we used.
Hey, you're supposed to check with me before you use anything.
See how funny it is when I sue him.
You know, I can tell this stuff is going to come back to haunt me.
Steve doesn't like us to show him being critical of a teammate, but you can learn a lot about him by listening to how he deals with problems during the game.
JJ, what do you got on the backside of post? If you got the post, take it. If you don't, come across the field deep.
J.J. Stokes got mad at Steve because he beat his man and Steve didn't throw him the ball. So one of the coaches came over and told Steve this.
JJ had a safety on him and he beat him.
Call him over, I'll get him frustrated.
Well, things went on, and after a while, Steve, I guess he started thinking about it. He walked over to J.J. and tried to talk to J.J. And J.J. sort of brushed him off. But being the relentless guy that Steve is, he just kept at him. Kept at him. And finally, JJ let him apologize to him.
Jay, we can all make mistakes, buddy.
And then one of the players walked over and said, Steve, why did you do that? And this is a classic Steve Young. He said,
I like my boys happy. I like my boys happy.
I rarely scream
you're
at
not a
anybody.
pain in the ass.
Yeah, I rarely scream at anybody. But what I do is I encourage loudly.
You know, he's even worse than you. He starts yelling at everybody.
Hey, Coach, I'm way better.
I know it. That's what I said. He's worse
No, but
than
I'm
you.
way better than even me before.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're pretty mellow.
I'm very mellow. When's the last time I did something really stubborn, you know?
Let me think.
You want to learn about somebody, go learn about them in front of 80,000 on Sunday, and when things aren't going well. You're gonna find out a lot about somebody what you couldn't find out in a year living with them.
You gotta be able to put plays together without tripping, without throwing interception. It's the little stuff, boys. Come on, it's the little stuff.
I swear every week in the NFL, there's a moment in the game where everyone in the team says, this is hard. And maybe, you know, people start looking for the bus.
You all right?
Yeah, he got it good. He got it really good.
And I think every week you have to say, you know, there's so many exit doors in the NFL. I'm not looking for anything.
Steve Young is hurt. I don't know if he can get up from this one.
You have to say, we're standing in here and we're going to win this football game.
Steve Young, one of the courageous games I've ever seen in a pro football player's career. For him to do that, to get the winning score, is just the stuff of legend.
It's almost like pushing a rock uphill. You know, when you're pushing that rock uphill, if you stop for a minute and go, well, it's over, then it falls down. If you can get a majority of guys out of 11 that have that personality, good football players that have that accountability, almost irregardless of talent, man, you're going to go places.
There's a distinction between being a good player and a good leader. The leader single-handedly bails his team out of a jam, then carries the team to even greater heights. That's what Steve Young has done throughout his career. His winning touchdown pass in the 1998 Wild Card game ranks as one of the most dramatic finishes in NFL history. But becoming San Francisco's leader hasn't been an easy journey.
One of my favorite movies is Robin Hood with Errol Flynn. And there's a scene where Errol Flynn comes into Sherwood Forest and all the merry men come around. They say, "Oh, Robin Hood, you've come to join us." And Errol Flynn says, "No, I've come to lead you."
Steve has always had his own style of leadership. But when he was compared to Joe Montana, he always came up short. When Montana's career as a 49er came to a close, the team looked to Young for leadership.
There was a transition from Montana to yourself. What was the biggest obstacle that you faced in gaining the respect? Now, that's a bad question. I can see you're glazing over.
I was sighing a deep breath because of how hard it was.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to continue holding that torch, but the comparisons were always going to be unfair.
To be acknowledged as the team leader, Steve, like Joe, would have to take his team to the Super Bowl. In 1994, he did just that and realized the significance of what came next.
You know, you wake up in the morning of the Super Bowl and you say to yourself that tonight, my life will be different. One way or another, my life is going to be different. That's an interesting way to feel in the morning as you're eating breakfast.
In the biggest game of his life, Steve had his greatest day. It was a flawless performance. Young threw a record 6 touchdown passes. A Super Bowl victory brought vindication.
At the end of that game, you say, "Get the monkey off my back."
Someone take the monkey off my back, please!
What did you mean by that?
I made a mistake because my whole career, I didn't talk about that. And I think I was just so relieved about winning the big game and playing well that I got a little carried away. I actually regret it. There's something good about football. There's something that people can learn. To me, if you become a real connoisseur of the game of football, you can learn a lot about life. I think there's so many metaphors. People always say, you know, I hear people say, "He dropped the ball." Well, we dropped the ball. We can tell you what that really is like, or instead of metaphorically what it's like. To me, a lot of people live by using metaphors to learn. We're the living metaphor for life. Failure, victory, you know, it's all happening right in front of your eyes.
Some people had questioned if Steve Young would be able to replace Joe Montana. Now, a similar question is raised. Will the 49ers ever find another leader to replace Steve Young?